Good day. My name is Naomi Diboja, and today we will be taking you through our group project WeShare. This distributed systems evidence collection is presented to you by Naomi Diboja, Mojani Sukutswanyana, and Benny Kibeng. I will be taking you through section A, where we will be covering research and data analysis. To begin with, WeShare is a web application designed to help firms easily track and manage shared expenses. It's based on the concept of social trust, allowing users to log expenses, create payments requests, and record payments between firms. Here are some of the computer applications we utilized to analyze the research data. Canva. We've used it to design visual aids, diagrams, and flowcharts that organize research findings, helping us clearly represent our user requirements, system flow, and interface mockup. This visual analysis makes complex information easier to understand and share. Stack Overflow, an essential resource for troubleshooting and gathering insights on common challenges in web development. It allowed us to analyze best practices, explore solutions to technical issues, and incorporate coding standards based on community knowledge. Google served as the primary search to gather data on similar expense tracking applications. Then VS Code, we used it to test and analyze code. With built-in debugging tools and plugins, VS Code allowed us to run code, check for errors, and ensure the functionality aligned with research insights on user requirements and technical feasibility. Then moving to information source, we used the curriculum provided by Code to execute our project. It helped in structuring the project to meet learning objectives. We then used Google and Stack Overflow as well as Javelin and TimeLeft documentation, where Javelin was used as the web framework and TimeLeft used to render dynamic HTML views, helping us to integrate server-side into the front end. For research methods, we made use of Google, competitive analysis, as well as interviewing potential users for technical insights, taking the duration of 2 weeks to complete the entire project. For assessing validity of the conclusions on the research, we made use of GitLab, which ensured all project changes were tracked, allowing us to review and validate updates and revert if necessary, preserving the integrity of the conclusions. Using an IDE such as VS Code enabled ongoing testing and debugging of our code, ensuring that conclusions drawn from research were accurately implemented. And lastly, peer interviews helped us get feedback which validated user requirement. And now, moving right along to computer applications for data research and analysis. We use Google for collaborative research and documentation. For the visual design elements, Canva was our go-to tool. Data visualization was crucial for showing trends and patterns in our research. To collaborate on planning and brainstorming, we used Miro. Now we are on development tools review, where we will be reviewing some of the tools we've utilized. These are some of the tools that we've utilized: CSS for styling, TimeLift, Javelin framework. And now I will be taking you through browser plugins. Browser plugins or extensions are software tools that add specific functionality to web browsers, enhancing the user's experience and extending the browser's capabilities. Point 1, user experience and accessibility tools. Point 2, improving productivity and workflow. Point 3, security and privacy enhancements. Point 4, testing cross-browser compatibility and responsiveness. And then lastly, under section A, we have motivation for editors and tools used. We utilized Google Workspace, which helped with Google Docs and Sheets. And then we also made use of Canva. Canva helped us create visually engaging assets for the project. And then lastly, we made use of Miro.
Good day. My name is Mojane, and I'll be taking you through the cost benefit analysis. So, with the cost benefit analysis, it's basically a method of figuring out if a particular course of action is worth it by weighing the costs that are going to be incurred by taking that course of action against the benefits that we expect to get. So basically, this is done to figure out if we should be pursuing a particular project decision or anything of the like. There are a couple of parts that a cost benefit analysis is comprised of, and basically these help us to be able to put together a solid cost benefit analysis. So we'll go over some of these steps. The first being to identify your actual costs and benefits. So knowing exactly how much effort and where you're going to take it and how much resources you're going to take to that specific place in a project setting is quite important, because if you don't know how much certain things are going to cost you, if you don't know what the potential benefit of a particular course of action is going to be, then you can't really make a sensible decision on whether or not to follow that course of action, because you don't know if it will end up being beneficial or detrimental to your project. So the next step would be actually quantifying those costs and benefits. So knowing how much, or knowing where your effort and where most of your resources are going to go and what rewards you're expecting is not enough, because you need to also know exactly what the values are so that you can make a more detailed uh, risk assessment, which is one of the steps that come later on, but we'll get to that. So if you know exactly how much a certain thing is going to cost you, a certain decision is going to cost you, and how much you're expecting to get in return, you can make a more informed decision when you decide to follow or not follow a particular course of action. Getting your net present value is the next course of action, and this helps you to see whether you are still on track with the goals that you set initially, and to see if everything that we're doing, or all of the parts of the decision itself are pretty much still being taken within the expenses that we set out in the beginning, and we're still expecting the same benefits from that whole project decision. The next step would be assessing your risk, which is basically checking whether the costs outweigh the benefits or whether the benefits outweigh your cost, and this will help you with the final step, which is basically making a decision. Once you have put together all of this information, the next best step would be to execute your decision. And that is pretty much a basic overflow of a cost benefit uh, analysis. So now we will move on to checking a basic cost benefit analysis for the WeShare app that we were working on. So planning would be a short part of pretty much our cost benefit analysis for WeShare, because this is where we pool all of the possible stakeholders together and pretty much get all of the requirements that we're going to need to go on with this project decision. So with that said, the planning itself will take anywhere from a day to 48 hours. Anything over this would be overkill, because all we're doing is determining the needed resources and pretty much figuring out our development goals and anything along that line. So this could cost anything around 5,000 to 20,000, depending on the nature of people's travel expenses and the like. So the next part of our cost benefit analysis is the design part of the project decision. Designing can take a different amount of money based on the resources you're using and based on the help you might have enlisted. So designing can take somewhere around 21,000 if you include basically getting a UI designer who's going to be designing certain things about your app, and pretty much getting a person who knows how to design web apps. And typically a web uh, developer can go from 600 to 1,600 an hour, and over say 48 hours you could incur costs that run anywhere from 11,600 to the stipulated 21,000. This too should not take too long. Around 48 hours should be enough. The next step would be uh, to actually get into development, and this is where we code the program. We could separate it into three different steps, which is the back end. The back end is typically done by a back-end developer, and if we don't have a proprietary developer, we will have to outsource this work. A back-end developer can take home anywhere from 3,000 to 3,800 a day. Um, so over a 10-day period, you could be paying anywhere from 30,000 to 38,000 to the back end developer. Uh, the next part would be the front end developer, who's in a similar price range as the previous one. It could be anywhere from 3.5 to 3.7 rand every day to pay for this person, and similar time frame would mean that you're paying about 35 to 37,000 in 10 days. Then finally we need somebody who would integrate the system itself, so the back end and the front end, and these typically go for about 3.7 a day. So in a whole 10-day period you could be expecting to pay somewhere around 37,000, and this leaves you with a total of somewhere from 90,000 to 100,000 that you're going to be spending on the development process. So we are going to also take into account testing, which includes UI testing, or no, which includes unit testing and pretty much the integration testing. So testing if the different components of the program work well together. And this shouldn't take too long because pretty much it should be done as rudimentary work within our project decision. So 48 hours should be enough, and that should cost somewhere around 20,000. And then the last part would be maintaining our project, which we aren't really sure how long it could take, since it could be you could need to keep maintaining the program for about 2 years after you have deployed it, or it could be throughout its whole life cycle that you're maintaining the program. So the costs aren't really a specific figure, and you don't really have a definite time frame on when it will start and when it will end. Now, we will go over some disadvantages that come with pretty much delivering the project late, and this could be the fact that you could end up bottlenecking other parts of the project. So if we haven't really gotten through the whole design part of the project, for example, we'll, we'll be bottlenecking our development, our testing, and the maintenance and so forth, because we cannot continue with those other parts if the design hasn't been concluded in a proper manner. So another another disadvantage that could come with delivering the work late is that the costs incurred may end up going higher and higher and higher. For example, if you're working on a project that needs, say, cloud computing, you pay for pretty much all of the cloud storage that you'll be using across this whole thing. And the longer you need that storage, the more costs you're going to incur on such. So late delivery of work can be adverse to our overall progress as a team in such ways. And that will be it for me.
Hi, it's Naomi again, and I will be taking you through section D. Identify the nature of the website. WeShare is a social expense tracking web application designed to help friends easily log shared expenses, send payment requests, and manage repayments. It relies on social trust to simplify shared financial interactions. Outline the physical context of the web pages. The website layout is organized to maximize clarity with the home page guiding users to the main functions, viewing expenses, logging new expenses, sending and viewing payment requests, and tracking payments. Each page maintains a simple and intuitive design, ensuring users can quickly locate and use each feature. Identify typical transactions and applicable facilities. Key transactions include logging an expense, creating a payment request to split costs, and recording repayments. Each transaction has a dedicated, user-friendly section within the app. Expenses can be added directly on the expenses page. Payment requests can be generated from the payment request page, and payments can be recorded, updating balance between friends. Showcase simplicity and ease of use. The WeShare interface prioritizes ease of use with straightforward navigation and clear instructions at every step. Users only need an email to log in, eliminating password management, and the minimalistic design ensures all features are readily accessible, making app simple for all users. Identify and showcase the use of HTML and CSS features. The site utilizes HTML for structured content and semantic tags to organize user input and transactions, ensuring accessibility. CSS styles the site to be visually appealing and consistent, with responsive design elements to ensure usability on both mobile and desktop devices, balancing the user's experience across the various screens.
So now let us move on to the actual project. I will start off by showing you one of the HTML files, the exception.html. Now, as you can see, the HTML file is a fine leaf template for displaying error messages. It shows a user-friendly message when an error occurs, along with the exception message and stack trace for debugging purposes. So the minute you encounter an error, this is the message which is going to happen. Oops, something bad happened. You should probably go back and try again. And if that doesn't work, hold your breath and confirm. So now that I've demonstrated uh, one of the HTML, we can move on to WeShare server, WeShare server trust, and then this will trigger a local host, a local host link, which is going to redirect us to the WeShare project. So once we click, we are going to get redirected to WeShare. As you can see, we have now been redirected to WeShare. Now what we can do is to enter the email address of the person who wants to gain access, and then what you can do, you can add a new expense here. Let's say you want to spend money on food as well as we have to enter the amount. Let's say it's 200 range, and then here you enter a random date, which is which is today's date. And then I deliberately made an error there. So we should get an exception handling message. So it shouldn't be 5, but instead you should enter the date, the month, as well as the year. And then once you submit, we are going to get the date description, amount, payment request, and payment receipt. And then here's the total expense, which is equivalent to 200 rands. Let's add another expense here. Let's choose, and then choose the cost 300 rands. Then we enter a random date, just today's date. And then you submit. And then now we get we get shoes as one of the expenses apart from food. And now the total expenses it has is now 200 plus the 300 thing. Once you click on one of the expenses, in this instance let's say food, we get redirected to the request payment. So here you are going to submit the details of the person who is owing you money, who was owing you, and then the amount, let's say 200 rand, and then you also enter a random date, and then you will get their details here at the bottom. Payment request added successfully. Then we're going to get who the person is, the when it's due, paid, and also how much is it. And now let's go through the inspector bar where, so this is the inspector bar where we can inspect our HTML as well as CSS file. So here we have job type HTML. This is how we define our HTML file. And then we have body. And then under body, that is where we have all the content within the body, which is the heading where we have WeShare. And then we have the person's user email address, where we have the user email address, and then under the main tag we have the div, where we have request payment, submitted payment, request for the following expenses, as well as the table. And I think I've covered pretty much everything.
Everyone. Uh, Hope you're well. And I'm going to be going over the development tools for our website, the development and design tools for both our maintenance and design for the web app. And firstly, we have VS Code over here, which is uh, which is a thing in IDE, particularly one used in the setting for designing the website. And traditional web design usually encompasses a group or a singular developer working on uh, code, basically starting a website from HTML, CSS for styling, and then JavaScript for functionality. And then typically, when we have like something like Wix, which is a popular online web designer, website builder, pardon. Uh, Basically, with that one, you just go on the website, you click a few buttons, and boom, it generates thingy, a website for you in a couple of seconds. And I'm gonna be going over the side-by-side comparison of the both. So, firstly, in terms of doing traditional design, you get like a lot more customization in terms of how you want the website to be structured, and usually as far as enterprise level websites, we need to actually have traditional web design for the thing, for the scalability and the security. And we can also it also has an initial it has an initial higher cost. However, in the long run, it actually proves to be much more cost effective as opposed to having a website builder. Whereas if you had a website builder, you are limited by the templates that they have on the actual website. So certain UX elements cannot be customized for actually the user as the data is being analyzed to see how the users are actually going about the website. And then sometimes uh, you tend to have to pay more for data analytics as far as website builders. However, with uh, with uh, with traditional web design, you could have your own data harvesting methods and then go through it at ease. And also, one key differences between the both is that as far as uh, having a product ready website, it typically takes longer with traditional web design as opposed to Wix because you could just have a thingy, you could just have a website in a couple of seconds and then take it to launch immediately with website builders. However, that is different since, especially if you are like starting the infrastructure from scratch, it typically takes a lot of time because then there's quite a lot of planning involved, uh, and there's a lot of testing as well. So initially, uh, what seems to be long-term cost effective also has its own startup fault as well. However, we decided to go with the visuals with the thingy with the traditional design method and maintenance simply because it's what we were required within the scope of this project. It is ideal, typically for businesses or website owners who anticipate a lot of traffic because website builders typically crash uh, before you could actually account for accommodate the traffic. So with traditional web development, you could fine tune your website to allow and accommodate for however much traffic you are anticipating and currently have. Thank you. This is it for section E.